Hello, Prince Primeval, hello, welcome back. Thank you for being here. No, thank you. Otherwise, I would have had to hunt you down and drag you in by the ear. Yeah, this sounds fun. Masochism. Yeah, not first today, Thog. You've been beaten. Hello, Thog. How are you? Just hot and stuffy in here. I think I'm gonna open a window being beaten doesn't sound like the worst thing. Maybe not. I'm gonna open a window real quick. There we go. It's a little bit better. Wait for it to pull out this hot air. I don't know how much it'll help though, because it is hot outside as well. Sir Cappy, welcome back. If I spray a little of this air freshener too. It's like so hot and muggy. I hate it. How's my tummy? No, it's okay. I just feel a little nauseous. Yuki, hello. Hiya. How are you, guys? This is Miyuki. Please check her out. She's really cool and adorable. She's literally the cutest. Go check her out. Just got done working out myself, so I've been melting. I've been meaning to go on a walk, but it's just been so hot. And I've been so tired. I think some fresh air will help. Oh, also this happened while offline. Thank you for the head pats. Thank you. Wait. It said I got Daily Bubble, but why isn't the Daily Bubble working? What is this? Oh. Yes, it's Jurassic Park Day. There we go. Bubbles, only 25 cents. Oh, maybe I just missed it. Maybe it happened while I had my headphones off and I was opening the window. That could definitely be what happened. Thank you guys for being here. I'm gonna snooze that since we're like literally just started.
Drink water, you dehydrated bitch!
Thank you for the hydrate. And hard eyes, wow. Wow. We're just going at it today. Oh, I also got one of these while I was offline, so I'm gonna go ahead and play it on stream, just so he gets his recognition. Offline sub have to get their recognition. Been dealing with it for real. Last week or the week before, I was really going through it, and I didn't even hit the gym for like, yeah. When you have like an off week or an off couple of weeks, you really just feel like you have to make up for it. I do the same thing with streaming. Like if I have like an off week where I just like have been too sick to stream or just really haven't been feeling it, I just, I feel like I have to give extra streams when I can.
Banana.
Joshua Irvin, so much for the follow. Welcome. Kotal Smasher, welcome back. How are you? Just depression things. Aw. Poor baby. Deep breath. Oh, that made me need to yawn. You know, I didn't even wake up early today. Well, I mean, I did to feed the cat and then I went back to sleep, but nah, like, I didn't even wake up early today and I'm tired still. I'm okay, I've just got kind of a tummy ache, feeling a bit nauseous. But I'm all good. And it's hot. Oh my god. I really need to get a fan for in here. Shower. Post-workout shower. Dog, do you take cold showers? Personally, I like them steaming hot. Like most women, because it reminds them where they came from. Hell, no, I make that same joke. I say that it reminds me of home. I crawled out from the depths of hell. No, I make that joke all the time, yeah. In my case, I came from the depths of the abyss. Start blisteringly hot and then do cold at the end, for the shock. Yeah. The hot showers all year round. Sometimes I just want to sit and stew. You know what I mean? Just sit and stew in the tub with a little with a nice smelling bath bomb. Unless I did outdoor work, a cold shower just melts the pain away. Yeah. The only time I ever do anything outdoors was weeding the garden. Actually, man, I need to tear up my parents' front lawn. It really needs work. So I might do that tomorrow. Or maybe on Sunday. We'll see. I might save it for the weekend. I am a bit busy tomorrow. It helps your old man back. The shock of the cold shower. Sin stew. Cinna soup. Don't like taking baths because I'm just too aware of the fact I'm sitting in my body yuck. See, that's why. Bubbles. Bubbles, only 25 cents. You get one per stream. Only 25 cents. Mixed boy, welcome in. How are you doing? Thank you for the head pads. See, the key is, dog, you take a shower first and then sit in a stew of yourself afterwards. That's the way to do it. You clean yourself first and then you sit in the stew. You're good. That's good. I'm glad. I'm good. Gonna have a nice, relaxing evening. What? You what? Sit in the stew. Too much work. It's too much work to shower and then bath. If I'm already showered, I'm getting out. You don't want like that extra relaxing time. Pika, I think you're misunderstanding. I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. When you sit in like a bubble bath or with a bath bomb, I just call that a stew because it's hot with a mix of ingredients, including yourself, and you are the main ingredient of the bath stew. Can't remember the last time I took a bath instead of a shower. I had one just the other day. I used my last bath bomb. I've been saving it for a while. Can I put leeks and onions in it? If you would like to, I guess you could. Personally, I prefer flowers. Lavender is my favorite. I just like the time I get to relax in bed all clean and naked. Yo, do we all just do the same thing? Do we all just like sit in our nudity for a while after taking a shower? Just freeballing it for a couple of hours until you put your clothes back on. I feel like I have trust issues with being naked in open spaces for prolonged periods of time. Why? What if the fire alarm goes off? This is why I highly recommend investing in a bathrobe to lounge in. That, or I guess you're just going out with a towel on. Personally, I just have clothes that I can very quickly and easily throw on before I head out the door. You love lavender too. It's one of the best smells. It's not too strong, but not too faint. It smells clean, but not quite like vanilla, which to me smells like Play-Doh. If an emergency happens, then I guess I'm running out the house staying swinging. That's funny. I low-key remember there was one girl in uni that was clearly mid-shower when the alarm went off and was like freezing, a booba barely covered by her towel, shivering in the snow. Aw, yeah. That would be unfortunate. I live in a house though. I don't live in an apartment complex right now. And I won't be for the foreseeable future. Dressed like El Jefe from NoFX. Black shirt, black cargo shorts, black socks, black shoes. All black everything. You'd still have to abandon shelter, proceed to law, Nikki. That's true, however, the odds are slim to none. Unless somebody, like, committed arson on my home. Which would be generally just not a nice thing to do. I have an animal in here. I have my grandmother. There are children in the house. You'd have to be a genuinely evil person to do something like that. Simple and clean. Sanctuary, you and I, that's the way. I consider my fashion sense goth hippie because it's either all black or all colorful. 15 Hawaiian shirts. Wow. I would have given her my jacket. Wait. Terrible. Oh, yeah. Super cute and chivalrous, but I was too nerdy and shy to even consider approaching a woman in any state of undress. That's so real. I think it depends on the Hawaiian shirt. I think it depends on the Hawaiian shirt. Some of them are like, eh, and other ones are like, oh yeah, that's nice, you know? I don't think she'd be like, who is this weirdo? I think she would appreciate it very much, considering the circumstances, because it's either continue to shiver and freeze in nothing but a towel, or accept the jacket from the stranger. I think in most cases they would just appreciate that you want to help in that situation. Next time I get a time machine, I'll correct this mistake. And then I'll buy crypto. Oh, that reminds me. So I saw, you know, the red pill, blue pill meme. Alright, we were talking about it earlier. Would you rather be sent back in time to when you were 6 years old with all of the knowledge that you have now, or receive $10 million in cash, tax-free, today? Personally, I'll take the 10 million. There's nothing that I could benefit from going back in time to when I was 6 years old. I would hate to live through all of that again. Yes, tax-free, 10 million. Yes. Cash. I'd consider a big button-up flowy shirt Hawaiian, not necessarily flower print shirts. You hated your childhood? I don't remember most of my childhood. But I know that there are definitely things I don't want to relive through. Maybe if it was going back to high school, I would reconsider. But all the way back to 6 years of age, no thank you. 6 years old because I feel like then I'll know who I am as a person and everything. Be confident, know what I stand for. Yeah. That sounds valid. 10 mil is a lot, but money can't buy time. That's true, but it would fix a lot of the issues that I'm currently facing. And then just like, yeah, investments. But yeah, it would fix a lot of my current issues. Alright, dog, I'll see you. Hi, Junior. Thank you for the head pats. Time may change me, but I can't change time. The biggest issue with time travel things, IMO, or like overdues, is that I feel like you lose a big part of who you are because you miss out on those experiences. But if you're going back with all of the memories of who you are as a person now, will it change if you go back and do things differently? Or will they just be added experiences? That's really the question that you need to ask about it.
Banana.
Corn Gobbler. Thank you for the follow. Never fuck with time, never fuck with the past. I respect that. What the hell is going on out there? I'm ready for 10 million tax free. So am I. So am I. At the very least, I'd wipe out all my debt. Get my credit score back on track. At the very least. To think about that, like imagine you can't even befriend your best friend because it's like awkward and unnatural. You don't have that same natural chemistry because you know too much. That's true. They say most people that win the lotto actually ruin themselves as well. Yeah, I've heard that a lot of people don't really know what to do with receiving a large amount of money at one time. Live on some Filipino island. See, but you're gonna have to learn how to hide your wealth. You're gonna have to learn how to hide your wealth. Alright, that's really the main thing. Is managing it smart, okay? Managing it wisely, and learning to hide your wealth. You gotta learn? Yes, you have to learn. I'd want to get a lot done with time, but if I'm 6, yeah, you'll be subjected to school again, which is something that I really, really hated. I was not a fan of school. How do you launder your own money that isn't dirty? You don't need to do that. What? There's like literally one person doing well after winning the lotto, and then he got, yeah, you have to hide your money. Hide your money. Like, okay, so lottery winners are public information. Anyone can find out who has won the lottery. Right? But I think a lot of, like, most people don't go out of their way to look them up. Right? So it's really just a matter of not suddenly becoming a big spender. I don't know how except withdraw, and I'm afraid a lot of things can happen if I hide under. Don't hide it under the bed. Put it into your bank, into your savings. Put some into an investment account. If you have an IRA, you know what? No, this is not financial advice. Hi, Kitty. Artemis. Hi. That's what I would do. This is not financial advice. Yeah. It's just what I would do. I would put a good amount into savings, throw some into investments. I was told that high stakes investments are good while you're young, but when you get older, you really want solid investments. Again, not financial advice. Savings under a different name, maybe. I don't think you can have like official like banking institution accounts under a false name, can you? Unless you like under like a legal entity, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, lottery winnings are taxed, but we're talking about 10 million tax free. At the same time, most passively managed index funds just make money because yeah, that's true. The economy is supposed to grow. Inflation, you know? Inflation ruins everything. Quite sure about it. Alright. Everybody, are we ready? Are we ready to continue Jurassic Park? Put it all on Reddit Vegas. Oh my gosh. Primeval's gonna lose all his money. If you're gonna blow all your money like that, just spend it on me. Surely, I'm a much better investment than just gambling at a casino. You know, gambling does sound kind of fun. I wouldn't know, I'm not a gambler. I don't see the appeal. Yes, okay. We are ready. Win money, that's the appeal, but the odds are you're not going to come out on top because people don't know when to stop. Glasses. What was my glasses button? I don't remember. Was it this one? Yes. Glasses on. There we go. You don't like people. I don't like people that think gambling is funny. Huh? People act like the sky is falling and the narrative is different, but concrete number-wise, if you invested in the first modern index fund, 1970, put $1,000 in, that's a lot of money. Alright, let me... Ooh, grab this one. Oh, my glasses. Junior, I don't remember what my glasses button was. My glasses. Hit all the buttons, just not that button. Was it the bald button? I don't have a bald button. Hold on, you're just gonna have to get a behind the scenes look. Fuck, what was it? Settings here. Got it. We got it. Oh, no, no, no. I did push that one. Hold on. Hold on. Got it. Shh. Shh. You guys didn't see anything. Alright. How is the audio, you guys? Is the background too noisy, or is it good? Let me know. It's too humid outside. I have to close the window. It's good. Alright. Thank you. Okay. Let us stretch before we start. I'll turn the bubble reading down. That bubble. I actually am not sure if I can control the audio on it. Let me look. Let me take a look. I use trigger fire for that. It's not a huge deal. Yeah, but you know. I don't mind taking a look at things. I'm just not sure if I can turn the audio up or down. Oh, I can! I can! Alright, I'm gonna turn it down halfway. Save. Oh my god, I forgot about these. Oh my god. Oh my god, Junior, do you remember these? Hi, Laurel. Yes, it's dino time. Junior, do you remember these?
Next, we are going to steal. Pause for effect. Demo!
remember this. Yes, it's dino time. You look so serious with these glasses. It's because it's reading time. You don't remember? This is when we started deciding to do all the minion stuff. And then I also have this that I don't use anymore. I also have this.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. Eat the cat. Eat the cat.
I I forgot that I put those up. Banger. Alright, alright, alright. Alright, let's get into it. It's reading time. Grant was awakened by a loud, grinding sound, followed by a mechanical clinking. He opened his eyes and saw a bale of hay rolling past him on a conveyor belt up toward the ceiling. 2 more bales followed it. Then the clanking stopped as abruptly as it had begun, and the concrete building was silent again. Grant yawned. He stretched sleepily, winced in pain, and sat up. Good thing you don't have to read, Junior. All you have to do is listen. Soft yellow light came through the side windows. It was morning. He had slept the whole night. He looked quickly at his watch. 5 a.m. Still, almost 6 hours to go before the boat had to be recalled. He rolled onto his back, groaning. His head throbbed, and his body ached as if he had been beaten up. From around the corner, he heard a squeaking sound, like a rusty wheel, and then Lex giggling. Grant stood slowly and looked at the building. Now that it was daylight, he could see it was some kind of maintenance building, with stacks of hay and supplies. On the wall, he saw a gray metal box and a stenciled sign. Sauropod Maintenance Building 4. This must be the sauropod paddock, as he had thought. He opened the box and saw a telephone, but when he lifted the receiver, he heard only hissing static. Apparently, the phones weren't working yet. Chew your food, Lex was saying. Don't be a piggy, Ralph. Grant walked around the corner and found Lex by the bars, holding out handfuls of hay to an animal outside that looked like a large pink pig and was making the squeaking sounds Grant had heard. It was actually an infant triceratops about the size of a pony. The infant didn't have horns on its head yet, just a curved, bony frill behind big, soft eyes. It poked its snout through the bars toward Lex, its eyes watching her as she fed it more hay. That's better, Lex said. There's plenty of hay, don't worry. She patted the baby on the head. You like hay, don't you, Ralph? That's so cute. Lex turned back and saw him. This is Ralph, Lex said. He's my friend. He likes hay. Grant took a step and stopped, wincing. You look pretty bad, Lex said. I feel pretty bad. Tim, too. His nose is all swollen up. Where is Tim? Peeing, she said. You want to help me feed Ralph? The baby Triceratops looked at Grant. Hay stuck out both sides of its mouth, dropping on the floor as it chewed. He's a very messy eater, Lex said, and he's very hungry. The baby finished chewing and licked its lips. It opened its mouth, waiting for more. Grant could see the slender, sharp teeth and the beaky upper jaw like a parrot. Okay, just a minute, Lex said, scooping up more straw from the concrete floor. Honestly, Ralph, she said, you'd think your mother never fed you. Why is his name Ralph? Because he looks like Ralph at school. Grant came closer and touched the skin of the neck gently. It's okay, you can pet him, Lex said. He likes it when you pet him. Don't you, Ralph? The skin felt dry and warm, with the pebble texture of a football. Ralph gave a little squeak as Grant petted. Outside the bars, its thick tail swung back and forth with pleasure. He's pretty tame. Ralph looked from Lex to Grant as it ate, and showed no sign of fear. It reminded Grant that the dinosaurs didn't have ordinary responses to people. Maybe I can ride him, Lex said. Let's not. I bet he'd let me, Lex said. It'd be fun to ride a dinosaur. She's so nonchalant for someone who had a traumatizing experience just the night before. Grant looked out the bars past the animal to the open fields of the sauropod compound. It was growing lighter every minute. He should go outside, he thought, and set off one of the motion sensors on the field above. After all, it might take the people in the control room an hour to get out there to him, and he didn't like the idea that the phones were still down. He heard a deep snorting sound, like the snort of a very large horse, and suddenly the baby became agitated. It tried to pull its head back through the bars, but it got caught on the edge of its frill, and it squeaked in fright. The snorting came again. It was closer this time. Ralph reared up on its hind legs, frantic to get out from between the bars. It wriggled its head back and forth, rubbing against the bars. Ralph, take it easy, Lex said. Push him out, Grant said. He reached up to Ralph's head and leaned against it, pushing the animal sideways and backward. The frill popped free, and the baby fell outside the bars, losing its balance and flopping on its side. Then the baby was covered in shadow, and a huge leg came into view, thicker than a tree trunk. The foot had 5 curved toenails, like an elephant's. Ralph looked up and squeaked. A head came down into view, 6 feet long, with 3 long white horns, one above each of the large brown eyes, and a large smaller horn at the tip of the nose. It was a full-grown Triceratops. The big animal peered at Lex and Grant, blinking slowly, and then turned its attention to Ralph. A tongue came out and licked the baby. Ralph squeaked and rubbed up against the big leg happily. Is that his mom? Lex said. Looks like it, Grant said. Should we feed the mom too? Lex said. But the big Triceratops was already nudging Ralph with her snout, pushing the baby away from the bars. Guess not. The infant turned away from the bars and walked off. From time to time, the big mother nudged her baby, guiding it away as they both walked out into the fields. Goodbye, Ralph, Lex said, waving. Tim came out of the shadows of the building. Tell you what, Grant said. I'm going up on the hill to set off the motion sensors so they'll know to come get us. You two stay here and wait for me. No, Lex said. Why stay here? Wait, I read that wrong. Why? Stay here, it's safe here. You're not leaving us, she said. Right, Timmy? Right, Tim said. Okay, Grant said. They crawled through the bars, stepping outside. It was just before dawn. The air was warm and humid, the sky soft pink and purple. A white mist clung low to the ground. Some distance away, they saw the mother Triceratops and the baby moving away toward a herd of large duck-billed hadrosaurs eating foliage from the trees at the edge of the lagoon. Some of the hadrosaurs stood knee-deep in water. They drank, lowering their flat heads, meeting their own reflections in the still water. Then they looked up again, their heads swiveling. At the water's edge, one of the babies ventured out, squeaked, and scrambled back while the adults watched indulgently. Further south, other hadrosaurs were eating the lower vegetation. Sometimes they reared up on their hind legs, resting their forelegs on the tree trunks, so they could reach the leaves on higher branches. And in the far distance, a giant apatosaur stood above the trees, the tiny head swiveling on the long neck. The scene was so peaceful, Grant found it hard to imagine any danger. Yow! Lex shouted, ducking. 2 giant red dragonflies with 6-foot wingspans hummed past them. What was that? Dragonflies, he said. The Jurassic was the time of huge insects. Do they bite? Lex said. I don't think so, Grant said. Tim held out his hand. One of the dragonflies lighted on it. He could feel the weight of the huge insect. He's going to bite you, Lex warned. But the dragonfly just slowly flapped its red-veined, transparent wings, and then, when Tim moved his arm, flew off again. Dragonflies are creepy, I'm not gonna lie. They kind of scare me. Which way do we go? Lex said. There. They started walking across the field. They reached a black box mounted on a heavy metal tripod, the first of the motion sensors. Grant stopped and waved his hand in front of it back and forth, but nothing happened. If the phones didn't work, perhaps the sensors didn't work either. We'll try another one, he said, pointing across the field. Somewhere in the distance, they heard the roar of a large animal. They're like apex predators of the bug world. Battleless bug. They can intercept mosquitoes mid-air. Oh. Ooh. Interesting. Timing? Timing for what? dinosaur roar? Oh. Honestly, I wasn't even paying attention to it. Ah, hell, Arnold said. I just can't find it. He sipped coffee and stared bleary-eyed at the screens. He had taken all the video monitors offline. In the control room, he was searching the computer code. He was exhausted. He'd been working for 12 straight hours. He turned to Wu, who had come up from the lab. Find what? The phones are still out. I can't get them back on. I think Nedry did something to the phone. Wu lifted one phone, heard hissing. Sounds like a modem. But it's not, Arnold said, because I went down into the basement and shut off all the modems. What you're hearing is just white noise that sounds like a modem transmitting. So the phone lines are jammed. Basically, yes. Nedry jammed them very well. He's inserted some kind of a lockout into the program code. And now I can't find it, because I gave the restore command, which erased part of the program listings. But apparently, the command to shut off the phones is still resident in the computer memory. A single dragonfly can eat hundreds of mosquitoes per day, along with other flying insects like gnats, midges, and flies. They can also beat their forewings out of phase, allowing them to hover, fly backwards, and straight up or left. Right? Success rates when hunting up to 95%. Lions, by comparison, have a success rate about 25%. Oh, that's pretty cool. Wow, I'm learning things about dragonflies today. Wu shrugged. So? Just reset. Shut the system down and you'll clear the memory. I've never done it before, Arnold said, and I'm reluctant to do it. Maybe all the systems will come back on startup, but maybe they won't. I'm not a computer expert, and neither are you. Not really. And without an open phone line, we can't talk to anybody who is. Nerding out here is completely fine. If the command is RAM resident, it won't show up in the code. You can do a RAM dump and search that, but you don't know what you're searching for. I think all you can do is reset. Shannara stormed in. We still don't have any telephones. Working on it. You've been working on it since midnight, and Malcolm is worse. He needs medical attention. It means I'll have to shut down, Arnold said. I can't be sure everything will come back on. Shannara said, Look, there's a sick man over in that lodge. He needs a doctor or he'll die. You can't call for a doctor unless you have a phone. 4 people have probably died already. Now shut down and get the phones working. Arnold hesitated. Well, Shannara said. Well, it's just... the safety systems don't allow the computer to be shut down, and then turn the goddamn safety systems off. Can't you get it through your head that he's going to die unless he gets help? Okay, Arnold said. He got up and went to the main panel. He opened the doors and uncovered the metal swinging latches over the safety switches. He popped them off, one after another. You asked for it, Arnold said, and you got it. He threw the master switch, and the control room was dark. All the monitors were black. The 3 men stood there in the dark. How long do we wait? Shinaru said. 30 seconds, Arnold said. Hold on to your butts. P.U., Lex said as they crossed the field. What? Grant said. That smell, Lex said. It stinks like rotten garbage. Grant hesitated. He stared across the field toward the distant trees, looking for movement. He saw nothing. There was hardly a breeze to stir the branches. It was peaceful and silent in the early morning. I think it's your imagination, he said. It's not. Then he heard the honking sound. It came from the herd of duck-billed hadrosaurs behind them. First one animal, then another, and another, until the whole herd had taken up the honking cry. The duckbills were agitated, twisting and turning, hurrying out of the water, circling the young ones to protect them. They smell it too, Grant thought. With a roar, the tyrannosaur burst from the trees 50 yards away near the lagoon. It rushed out across the open fields with huge strides. It ignored them, heading toward the herd of hadrosaurs. I told you, Lex screamed. Nobody listens to me. In the distance, the duckbills were honking and starting to run. Grant could feel the earth shake beneath his feet. Come on, kids. He grabbed Lex, lifting her bodily off the ground, and ran with Tim through the grass. He had glimpses of the tyrannosaur down by the lagoon, lunging at the hadrosaurs, which swung their big tails in defense and honked loudly and continuously. He heard the crashing of foliage and trees, and when he looked over again, the duckbills were charging. You go, duckbills. You go. Fight off that mean old T-Rex. In the darkened control room, Arnold checked his watch. 30 seconds. The memory should be cleared by now. He pushed the main power switch back on. Nothing happened. Arnold's stomach heaved. He pushed the switch off, then on again. Still, nothing happened. He felt sweat on his brow. What's wrong? Shinaru said. Oh, hell. Arnold said. Then he remembered you had to turn the safety switches back on before you restarted the power. He flipped on the 3 safety switches and recovered them again with the latch covers. Then he held his breath and turned the main power switch. The room lights came on. The computer beeped. The screens hummed. Thank God, Arnold said. He hurried to the main monitor. There were rows of tablets on the screen. Why did I say tablets? There were rows of labels on the screen, not tablets. Shinaru reached for the phone, but it was dead. No static hissing this time, just nothing at all. What's this? Give me a second, Arnold said. After a reset, all the system modules have to be brought online manually. Quickly, he went back to work. Why manually? Shinaru said. Will you just let me work, for Christ's sake? Wu said, the system is not intended to ever shut down. So, if it does shut down, it assumes that there's a problem somewhere. It requires you to start up everything manually. Otherwise, if there were a short somewhere, the system would start up, short out, and start up again, short out again, in an endless cycle. Okay, Arnold said. We're going. Gennaro picked up the phone and started to dial when he suddenly stopped. Jesus, look at that, he said, pointing to one of the video monitors. But Arnold wasn't listening. He was staring at the map, where a tight cluster of dots by the lagoon had started to move in a coordinated way, moving fast in a kind of swirl. What's happening? Gennaro said. The duckbills, Arnold said tonelessly. They've stampeded. The duckbills charged with surprising speed, their enormous bodies in a tight cluster, honking and roaring, the infants squealing and trying to stay out from underfoot. The herd raised a great cloud of yellow dust. Grant couldn't see the tyrannosaur. The duckbills were running right toward them. Still carrying Lex, he ran with Tim toward a rocky outcrop with a stand of big conifers. They ran hard, feeling the ground shake beneath their feet. The sound of the approaching herd was deafening, like the sound of jets at an airport. It filled the air and hurt their ears. Lex was shouting something, but he couldn't hear what she was saying. And as they scrambled onto the rocks, the herd closed in around them. Grant saw the immense legs of the first hadrosaurs that charged past, each animal weighing 5 tons. And then they were enveloped in a cloud so dense he could see nothing at all. He had the impression of huge bodies, giant limbs, bellowing cries of pain as the animals wheeled and circled. One duckbill struck a boulder and it rolled past them, out into the field beyond. In the dense cloud of dust, they could see almost nothing behind the rocks. They clung to the boulders, listening to the screams and honks, the menacing roar of the tyrannosaur. Lex dug her fingers into Grant's shoulder. Another hadrosaur slammed its big tail against the rocks, leaving a splash of hot blood. Grant waited until the sounds of the fighting had moved off to the left, and then he pushed the kids to start climbing the largest tree. They climbed swiftly, feeling for the branches as the animals stampeded all around them in the dust. They went up 20 feet, and then Lex clutched at Grant and refused to go farther. Tim was tired too, and Grant thought they were high enough. Through the dust, they could see the broad backs of the animals below as they wheeled and honked. Grant propped himself against the coarse bark of the trunk, coughed in the dust, closed his eyes, and waited. Arnold adjusted the camera as the herd moved away. The dust was slowly cleared. He saw that the hadrosaurs had scattered and the tyrannosaur had stopped running, which could only mean it had made a kill. The tyrannosaur was now near the lagoon. Arnold looked at the video monitor and said, "Better get Muldoon to go out there and see how bad it is." "I'll get him," Gennaro said, and left the room. My back is like extra Rice Krispie today. faint crackling sound, like a fire in a fireplace. Something warm and wet tickled Grant's ankle. He opened his eyes and saw an enormous beige head. The head tapered to a flat mouth shaped like the bill of a duck. The eyes, protruding above the flat duck bill, were gentle and soft like a cow's. The duck mouth opened and chewed branches on the limb where Grant was sitting. He saw large flat teeth in the cheek. The warm lips touched his ankle again as the animal chewed. A duck-billed hadrosaur. He was astonished to see it up close. Not that he was afraid. All the species of duck-billed dinosaurs were herbivorous. And this one acted exactly like a cow. Even though it was huge, its manner was so calm and peaceful that Grant didn't feel threatened. He stayed where he was, on the branch, careful not to move, and watched as it ate. The reason Grant was astonished was that he had a proprietary feeling about this animal. It was probably a myosaur from the late Cretaceous in Montana. With John Horner, Grant had been the first to describe the species. Myosaurs had an upcurved lip, which gave them the appearance of smiling. The name meant good mother lizard. Myosaurs were thought to protect their eggs until the babies were born and could take care of themselves. Grant heard an instant chirping, and the big head swung down. He moved just enough to see the baby hadrosaur scampering around the feet of the adult. The baby was a dark beige with black spots. The adult bent her head low to the ground and waited, unmoving, while the baby stood up on its hind legs, resting its front legs on the mother's jaw, and ate the branches that protruded from the side of the mother's mouth. The mother waited patiently until the baby had finished eating and dropped back down to all fours again. Then the big head came back up towards Grant. The hadrosaur continued to eat just a few feet from him. Grant looked at the two elongated air holes on top of the flat upper bill. Apparently, the dinosaur couldn't smell Grant, and even though the left eye was looking right at him, for some reason, the hadrosaur didn't react to him. He remembered how the tyrannosaur had failed to see him the previous night. Grant decided on an experiment. He coughed. Instantly, the hadrosaur froze, the big head suddenly still. The jaws no longer chewing. Only the eye moved, looking for the source of the sound. Then, after a moment, when there seemed to be no danger, the animal resumed chewing. Amazing, Grant thought. Sitting in his arms, Lex opened her eyes and said, "Hey, what's that?" The hadrosaur trumpeted in alarm, a loud resonant honk that so startled Lex that she nearly fell out of the tree. The hadrosaur pulled its head away from the branch and trumpeted again. "Don't make her mad," Tim said, from the branch above. The baby chirped and scurried beneath the mother's legs as the hadrosaur stepped away from the tree. The mother cocked her head and peered inquisitively at the branch where Grant and Lex were sitting. With its upturned, smiling lips, the dinosaur had a comical appearance. "Is it dumb?" Lex said. "No," Grant said. "You just surprised her." "Well," Lex said, "is she going to let us get down or what?" The hadrosaur had backed 10 feet away from the tree. She honked again. Grant had the impression she was trying to frighten them away, but the dinosaur didn't really seem to know what to do. She acted confused and uneasy. They waited in silence, and after a minute, the hadrosaur approached the branch again, jaws moving in anticipation. She was clearly going to resume eating. "Forget it," Lex said. "I'm not staying here." She started to climb down the branches. At her movement, the hadrosaur trumpeted in fresh alarm. Grant was amazed, he thought. It really can't see us when we don't move. After a minute, it literally forgets that we're here. This was just like the tyrannosaur, another classic example of an amphibian visual cortex. Studies of frogs had shown that amphibians only saw moving things, like insects. If something didn't move, they literally didn't see it. The same thing seemed to be true of dinosaurs. In any case, the Maiasaur now seemed to find these strange creatures climbing down the tree too upsetting. With a final honk, she nudged her baby and lumbered slowly away. She paused once and looked back at them, then continued on. They reached the ground. Lex shook herself off. Both children were covered in layers of fine dust. All around them, the grass had been flattened. There were streaks of blood and a sour smell. Grant looked at his watch. "We better get going, kids," he said. "Not me," Lex said. "I'm not walking out there anymore." "We have to." "Why?" "Because," Grant said, "we have to tell them about the boat. Since they can't seem to see us on the motion sensors, we have to go all the way back ourselves. It's the only way." "Why can't we take the raft?" Tim said. "What raft?" Tim pointed to the low concrete maintenance building with the bars where they had spent the night. It was 20 yards away across the field. "I saw a raft back there," he said. Grant immediately understood the advantages. It was now 7 o'clock in the morning. They had at least 8 miles to go. If they could take a raft along the river, they would make much faster progress than going overland. "Let's do it," Grant said. The river. In the moat, or the jungle river? Arnold punched the visual search mode and watched as the monitors began to scan throughout the park, the images changing every 2 seconds. It was tiring to watch, but it was the fastest way to find Nedry's jeep, and Muldoon had been adamant about that. He had gone out with Shannaro to look at the stampede, but now that it was daylight, he wanted the car found. He wanted the weapons. The intercom clicked. "Mr. Arnold, may I have a word with you, please?" It was Hammond. He sounded like the voice of God. "You want to come here, Mr. Hammond?" "No, Mr. Arnold," Hammond said. "Come to me. I'm in the genetics lab with Dr. Wu. We'll be waiting for you." Arnold sighed and stepped away from the screens. Grant stumbled deep in the gloomy recesses of the building. He pushed past 5-gallon containers of herbicide, tree pruning equipment, spare tires for a jeep, and coils of cyclone fencing, 100-pound fertilizer bags, stacks of brown ceramic insulators, empty motor oil cans, work lights and cables. I don't see any raft. Keep going. Bags of cement, lengths of copper pipe, green mesh, and 2 plastic oars hung on clips on the concrete wall. Okay, he said, but where's the raft? It must be here somewhere, Tim said. You never saw a raft? No, I just assumed it was here. Poking among the junk, Grant found no raft, but he did find a set of plans, rolled up and speckled with mold from humidity, stuck back in a metal cabinet on the wall. He spread the plans on the floor, brushing away a big spider. He looked at them for a long time. I'm hungry. Eat the spider. Eat the spider. Just a minute. There were detailed topographical charts for the main area of the island, where they all were. According to this, the lagoon narrowed into the river they had seen earlier, which twisted northward, right through the aviary, and onto within a half-mile of the visitor lodge. He flipped back through the pages. How to get to the lagoon. According to the plans, there should be a door at the back of the building they were in. Grant looked up and saw it, recessed back in the concrete wall. The door was wide enough for a car. Opening it, he saw a paved road running straight down toward the lagoon. The road was dug below ground level, so it couldn't be seen from above. It must be another surface road, and it led to a dock at the edge of the lagoon. And clearly stenciled on the dock was raft storage. Hey, Tim said, look at this. He held out a metal case to Grant. Opening it, Grant found a compressed air pistol and a cloth belt that held darts. There were 6 darts in all, each as thick as his finger, labeled Morrow 709. Good work, Tim. He slung the belt around his shoulder and stuck the gun in his trousers. Is it a tranquilizer gun? I'd say so. What about the boat? Lex said. I think it's on the dock, Grant said. They started down the road. Grant carried the oars on his shoulder. I hope it's a big raft, Lex said, because I can't swim. Don't worry, he said. Maybe we can catch some fish, he said. They walked down the road with the sloping embankment rising up on both sides of them. They heard a deep rhythmic snorting sound, but Grant could not see where it was coming from. Are you sure there's a raft down there? Lex said, wrinkling her nose. Probably, Grant said. The rhythmic snorting became louder as they walked, but they also heard a steady droning, buzzing sound. When they reached the end of the road, at the edge of the small concrete dock, Grant froze in shock. The Tyrannosaur was right there. It was sitting upright in the shade of a tree, its hind legs stretched out in front. Its eyes were open, but it was not moving, except for its head, which lifted and fell gently with each snorting sound. The buzzing came from the clouds of flies that surrounded it, crawling over its face and slack jaws. Its bloody fangs and the red haunch of a killed hadrosaur that lay on its side behind the Tyrannosaur. The The Tyrannosaur was only 20 yards away. Grant felt sure it must have seen him. But the big animal did not respond. It just sat there. It took him a moment to realize the Tyrannosaur was asleep. Sitting, but asleep. He signaled to Tim and Lex to stay where they were. Grant walked slowly forward onto the dock, in full view of the Tyrannosaur. The big animal continued to sleep, snoring softly. Near the end of the dock, a wooden shed was painted green to blend in with the foliage. Grant quietly unlatched the door and looked inside. He saw a half-dozen orange life vests hanging on the wall, several rolls of wire mesh fencing, some coils of rope, and 2 big rubber cubes sitting on the floor. The cubes were strapped tight with flat rubber belts. Rafts. He looked back at Lex. She mouthed, "No boat." He nodded, "Yes." The Tyrannosaur raised its forelimb to wipe at the flies buzzing around its snout. But otherwise, it did not move. Grant pulled one of the cubes out onto the dock. It was surprisingly heavy. He freed the straps, found the inflation cylinder. With a loud hiss, the rubber began to expand. And then, with a hiss, whap, it popped fully open on the dock. The sound was fearfully loud in his ears. Grant turned, stared up at the dinosaur. The Tyrannosaur grunted and snorted. It began to move. Grant braced himself to run, but the animal shifted in its ponderous bulk, and then it settled back against the tree trunk and gave a long, growling belch. Lex looked disgusted, waving her hand in front of her face. Grant was soaked in sweat from the tension. He dragged the rubber raft across the dock. It flopped into the water with a loud splash. The dinosaur continued to sleep. Grant tied the boat up to the dock and returned to the shed to take out 2 life preservers. He put these in the boat and then waved for the kids to come out onto the dock. Pale with fear, Lex waved back. "No." He gestured, "Yes." The Tyrannosaur continued to sleep. Grant stabbed in the air with an emphatic finger. Lex came silently, and he gestured for her to get into the raft. Then Tim got in, and they both put on their life vests. Grant got in and pushed off. The raft drifted silently out into the lagoon. Grant picked up his paddles and fitted them into the oarlocks. They moved farther from the dock. Lex sat back, sighed loudly with relief. Then she looked stricken and put her hand over her mouth. Her body shook with muffled sounds. She was suppressing a cough. She always coughed at the wrong times. "Lex," Tim whispered fiercely, looking back toward the shore. Her head shook miserably and pointed to her throat. He knew what she meant, a tickle in her throat. What she needed was a drink of water. Grant was rowing, and Tim leaned over the side of the raft and scooped his hand in the lagoon, holding his cupped hand toward her. Lex coughed loudly, explosively in Tim's ears. The sound echoed across the water like a gunshot. The tyrannosaur yawned lazily and scratched behind its ear with its hind foot, just like a dog. It yawned again. It was groggy after its big meal, and it woke up, slowly. On the boat, Lex was making little gargling sounds. "Lex, shut up," Tim said. "I can't help it," she whispered, and then she coughed again. Grant rowed harder, moving the raft powerfully into the center of the lagoon. On the shore, the tyrannosaur stumbled to its feet. "I couldn't help it, Timmy," Lex shrieked miserably. "I couldn't help it." "Shh." Grant was rowing as fast as he could. "Anyway, it doesn't matter," she said. "We're far enough away. He can't swim." "Anyway, of course he can swim, you little idiot," Tim shouted at her. On the shore, the T-Rex stepped off the dock and plunged into the water. It moved strongly into the lagoon after them. "Well, how should I know?" she said. "Everybody knows tyrannosaurs can swim. It's in all the books. Anyway, all reptiles can swim. Snakes can't." "Of course snakes can, you idiot." "Settle down," Grant said. "Hold on to something." Grant was watching the tyrannosaur, noticing how the animal swam. The tyrannosaur was now chest deep in the water, but it could hold its big head high above the surface. Then Grant realized the animal wasn't swimming, it was walking, because moments later, only the very top of the head, the eyes, and the nostrils protruded above the surface. By then, it looked like a crocodile, and it swam like a crocodile, swinging its big tail back and forth so the water churned behind it. Behind the head, Grant saw the hump of the back and the ridges along the length of the tail, as it occasionally broke the surface. Exactly like a crocodile, he thought unhappily. The biggest crocodile in the world. "I'm sorry, Dr. Grant," Lex wailed. "I didn't mean it." Grant glanced over his shoulder. The lagoon was no more than 100 yards wide here, and they had almost reached the center. If he continued, the water would become shallow again. The tyrannosaur would be able to walk again, and he would move faster in the shallow water. Grant swung the boat around and began to row north. "What are you doing?" The tyrannosaur was now just a few yards away. Grant could hear its sharp snorting breaths as it came closer. Grant hooked the paddles in his hands, but they were light plastic, not weapons at all. The tyrannosaur threw its head back and opened its jaws wide, showing rows of curved teeth, and then, in a great muscular spasm, lunged forward to the raft, just missing the rubber gunwale. The huge skull slapping down, the raft rocking away on the crest of the splash. The tyrannosaur sank below the surface, leaving gurgling bubbles. The lagoon was still. Lex gripped the gunwale handles and looked back. "Did he drown?" "No," Grant said. He saw bubbles, then a faint ripple along the surface, coming toward the boat. Hang on, he shouted, as the head bucked up beneath the rubber, bending the boat and lifting it into the air, spinning them crazily before it splashed down again. Do something, Alexis screamed. Do something. Grant pulled the air pistol out of his belt. It looked pitifully small in his hands, but there was the chance that, if he shot the animal in a sensitive spot, in the eye or the nose, the tyrannosaur surfaced beside the boat, opened its jaws, and roared. Grant aimed and fired. The dart flashed in the light and smacked into the cheek. The tyrannosaur shook its head and roared again. And suddenly, they heard the answering roar, floating across the water toward them. Looking back, Grant saw the juvenile T-Rex on the shore, crouched over the killed sauropod, claiming the kill as its own. The juvenile slashed the carcass, then raised its head high and bellowed. The big tyrannosaur saw it too, and the response was immediate. It turned back to protect its kill, swimming strongly toward the shore. He's going away, Lex squealed, clapping her hands. He's going away. Na 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 na, stupid dinosaur. She's so silly. She is 9 years old after all. From the shore, the juvenile roared defiantly. Enraged, the big tyrannosaur burst from the lagoon at full speed, water streaming from its enormous body as it raced up the hill past the dock. The juvenile ducked its head and fled, its jaws still filled with ragged flesh. The big tyrannosaur chased it, racing past the dead sauropod, disappearing over the hill. They heard its final threatening bellow, and then the raft moved to the north, around a bend in the lagoon, to the river. Exhausted from rowing, Grant collapsed back, his chest heaving. He couldn't catch his breath. He lay, gasping, in the raft. Are you okay, Dr. Grant? Lex asked. From now on, will you just do what I tell you? Okay, she sighed. As if he had just made the most unreasonable demand in the world. She trailed her arm in the water for a while. You stopped rowing, she said. I'm tired, Grant said. Then, how come we're still moving? Grant sat up. She was right. The raft drifted steadily north. There must be a current. The current was carrying them north, toward the hotel. He looked at his watch and was astonished to see it was 15 minutes past 7. Only 15 minutes had passed since he had last looked at his watch. It seemed like 2 hours. Grant lay back against the rubber gunwales, closed his eyes, and slept. It's giving, get back here, you little shitty thief. Back shots. Hello. Welcome back. How are you doing? We just finished a chapter. You also blow bubbles with screams. Cut his hand open. Oh no. Terrible cook. Like the bubble blowing equivalent of a yelling room. Ah, yeah. I need to get new emotes once my new design is finished. I need a lot of things. New design, yeah. I'm getting a character redesign. It should be done by Friday. At least that's what the deadline is. I'll show you guys when it's done. I'm almost out of water. Shunaro sat in the jeep and listened to the buzzing of the flies and stared at the distant palm trees wavering in the heat. He was astonished by what looked like a battleground. The grass was trampled flat for 100 yards in every direction. One big palm tree was uprooted from the ground. There were great washes of blood in the grass, and on the rocky outcropping to their right. Sitting beside him, Muldoon said, "No doubt about it. Rexy's been among the hadrosaurs." He took another drink of whiskey and capped the bottle. "Damn lot of flies," he said. They waited and watched. Shunaro drummed his fingers on the dashboard. "What are we waiting for?" Muldoon didn't answer immediately. "The Rex is out there somewhere," he said, squinting at the landscape in the morning sun. "And we don't have any weapons worth a damn. We're in a jeep." "Oh, he can outrun the jeep, Mr. Gennaro," Muldoon said, shaking his head. "Once we leave this road and go onto open terrain, the best we can do in a four-wheel drive is 30-40 miles an hour. He'll run us right down. No problem for him. Muldoon sighed. But I don't see much moving out there now. You ready to live dangerously? Excuse me. Excuse me. Big stretch. Thank you, Primeval. Sure, Shannara said. Muldoon started the engine, and at the sudden sound, two small ophnelians leapt up from the matted grass directly ahead. Muldoon put the car in gear. He drove in a wide circle.
Did I jump scare you? Yeah, I bet I did.
How dare you? How dare you? He drove in a wide circle around the trample site, then moved inward, driving in a decreasing, concentric circles until he finally came to the place in the field where the little ophnelians had been. Then he got out and walked forward in the grass, away from the jeep. He stopped as a dense cloud of flies lifted into the air. What is it? Shannara said. Bring the radio, Muldoon said. Shannara climbed out of the jeep and hurried forward. Even from a distance, he could smell the sour, sweet odor of early decay. He saw a dark shape in the grass, crusted with blood, legs askew. Something just fell down the stairs. Young hadrosaur, Muldoon said, staring down at the carcass. The whole herd stampeded, and the young one got separated, and the T-Rex brought it down. How do you know? Shannara said. The flesh was ragged from many bites. You can tell from the exuda, Muldoon said. See those chalky white bites there in the grass? Bits, chalky white bits in the grass. That's Tyrannosaur spore. How do you know the Tyrannosaur didn't come later? The bite pattern, Muldoon said. See those little ones there? He pointed along the belly. Those are from the Othies. Those bites haven't bled. They're post-mortem from scavengers. Othies did that. But the hadro was brought down by a bite on the neck. You see the big slash there, above the shoulder blades. That's the T-Rex, no question. Shannara bent over the carcass, staring at the awkward, trampled limbs with a sense of unreality. Beside him, Muldoon flicked on his radio. Control. Yes, Shannara said over the radio. We got another hadro dead. Juvenile. Muldoon bent down among the flies and checked the skin on the sole of the right foot. A number was tattooed there. Specimen is number HD9. The radio crackled. I've got something for you, Arnold said. Oh, what's that? I found Nedry. Alright. Before we continue, I'm going to go get some more water. Alright, so I'm going to... it won't let me run an ad, I guess, because one has run recently. So I'll just be right back. Do keep yourselves entertained while I'm gone, and don't miss me too much. I'll only be quick. I'm back. You didn't miss me too much, did you? Let's move on. I almost cried. Don't do that again. The jeep burst through the line of palm trees along the east road and came out into the narrow service road leading toward the jungle river. It was hot in this area of the park. The jungle, close and fetid around them. Muldoon was fiddling with the computer monitor in the jeep, which now showed a map of the resort with overlaid grid lines. They found him up on remote video, he said. Sector 1104 is just ahead. Farther up the road, Shannaro saw a concrete barrier and the jeep parked alongside it. He must have taken the wrong turn off, Muldoon said, the little bastard. What'd he take? Shannaro asked. Wu says 15 embryos. Know what that's worth? Shannaro shook his head. Somewhere between 2 and 10 million, Muldoon said. He shook his head. Big stakes. As they came closer, Shannaro saw the body lying beside the car. The body was indistinct and green. But then green shapes scattered away as the jeep pulled to a stop. Compies, Muldoon said. The compies found him. A dozen procompsognathids, delicate little predators, no larger than ducks, stood at the edge of the jungle, chittering excitedly as the men climbed out of the car. Dennis Nedry lay on his back, the chubby boyish face now red and bloated. Flies buzzed around the gaping mouth and thick tongue. His body was mangled, the intestines torn open, one leg chewed through. Shannaro turned away quickly to look at the little compies, which squatted on their hind legs a short distance away and watched the men curiously. The little dinosaurs had 5-fingered hands, he noticed. They wiped their faces and chins, giving them an eerily human quality which, I'll be damned, Muldoon said, wasn't the compies. What? Muldoon was shaking his head. See these blotches on his shirt and his face. Smell that sweet smell like old dried vomit. Shannaro rolled his eyes. He smelled it. That's Dilo saliva, Muldoon said. Spit from the Dilophosaurus. You see the damage on the corneas. All that redness. In the eyes, it's painful, but not fatal. You've got about 2 hours to wash it out with the antivenom. We keep it all around the park just in case. Not that it mattered to this bastard. They blinded him, then ripped him down the middle. Not a nice way to go. Maybe there's justice in the world after all. The procompsognathids squeaked and hopped up and down as Gennaro opened the back door and took out gray metal tubing and a stainless steel case. It's all still there, he said. He handed 2 dark cylinders to Gennaro. What are these? Gennaro said. Just what they look like, Muldoon said. Rockets. As Gennaro backed away, he said, Watch it. You don't want to step in something. Gennaro stepped carefully over Nedry's body. Muldoon carried the tubing to the other jeep and placed it in the back. He climbed behind the wheel. Let's go. What about him? Gennaro said, pointing to the body. What about him? Muldoon said. We've got things to do. He put the car in gear. Looking back, Gennaro saw the compies resuming their feeding. One jumped up and squatted on Nedry's open mouth as it nibbled the flesh of his nose. That's cold. Ah. The jungle river became narrower. He slapped my chest. The jungle river became narrower. The banks closed in on both sides until the trees and foliage overhanging the banks met high above the blackout sun. To block out the sun. Tim heard the cry of birds and saw small chirping dinosaurs sleeping among the branches, but mostly it was silent. The air hot and still beneath the canopy of trees. Grant looked at his watch. It was 8 o'clock. They drifted along peacefully among dappled patches of light. If anything, they seemed to be moving faster than before. Awake now, Grant lay on his back and stared up at the branches overhead. In the bow, he saw Lex reaching up. "Hey, what are you doing?" he said. "You think we can eat these berries?" She pointed to the trees. Some of the overhanging branches were close enough to touch. Tim saw clusters of bright red berries on the branches. "No," Grant said. "Why? Those little dinosaurs are eating them." She pointed to small dinosaurs scampering in the branches. "Did you just cheese me? You just cheesed me. Ah!" I'm being bullied. Yeah, he really got fucked up by that dialogue. She sighed, dissatisfied with his authority. "I wish Daddy were here," she said. "Daddy always knows what to do." "What are you talking about?" Tim said. "He never knows what to do." "Yes, he does," she sighed. Lex stared at the trees as they slid past, their big roots twisting toward the water's edge. "Just because you're not his favorite." Tim turned away, said nothing. "But don't worry, Daddy likes you too, even if you're into computers and not sports." "Dad's a real sports nut," Tim explained to Grant. Grant nodded. Up in the branches, small, pale, yellow dinosaurs, barely 2 feet tall, hopped from tree to tree. They had beaky heads like parrots. "You know what they call those," Tim said. "Microceratops." "Big deal," Lex said. "I thought you might be interested." "Only very young boys," she said, "are interested in dinosaurs." "Says who?" "Daddy." Tim started to yell, but Grant raised his hand. "Kids," he said. "Shut up." "Shrimp check. Thank you for the shrimp check." "Come off it, Junior. She's only 9 years old." "Why," Lex said, I can do what I want if I. Then she fell silent, because she heard it too. It was a blood-curdling shriek from somewhere downriver. Well, where the hell is the damn Rex? Muldoon said, talking into the radio. Because we don't see him here. They were back at the sauropod compound, looking out at the trampled grass where the hadrosaurs had stampeded. The tyrannosaur was nowhere to be found. Checking now, Arnold said, and clicked off. Muldoon turned to Gennaro. Checking now, he repeated sarcastically. Why the hell didn't he check before? Why didn't he keep track of him? I don't know, Gennaro said. He's not showing up, Arnold said a moment later. What do you mean, he's not showing up? He's not on monitors. Motion sensors aren't finding him. Hell, Muldoon said. So much for the motion sensors. You see Grant and the kids. Motion sensors aren't finding them either. Well, what are we supposed to do now, Muldoon said. Wait, Arnold said. Look, look. Directly ahead, the big dome of the aviary rose above them. Grant had seen it only from a distance. Now he realized it was enormous, 1/4 mile in diameter or more. The pattern of geodesic struts shone dully through the light mist, and his first thought was that the glass might weigh a ton. Then, as they came closer, he saw there wasn't any glass, just struts. A thin mesh hung inside the elements. It isn't finished, Flex said. I think it's meant to be open like that, Grant said. Then all the birds can fly out. Not if they're big birds, Grant said. The river carried them beneath the edge of the dome. They stared upward. Now they were inside the dome, still drifting down the river. But within minutes, the dome was so high above them that it was hardly visible in the mist. Grant said, I seem to remember there's a second lodge here. Moments later, he saw the roof of a building over the tops of trees to the north. You want to stop, Tim said. Maybe there's a phone or motion sensors. Grant steered toward the shore. We need to try to contact the control room. It's getting late. They clambered out, slipping on the muddy bank, and Grant hauled the raft out of the water. Then he tied the rope to a tree, and they set off through a dense forest of palm trees. I just don't understand, Arnold said, speaking into the phone. I don't see the Rex, and I don't see Grant and the kids anywhere either. He sat in front of the consoles and gulped another cup of coffee. All around him, the control room was strewn with paper plates and half-eaten sandwiches. Arnold was exhausted. It was 8 a.m. on Saturday, in the 14 hours since Nedry destroyed the computer that ran Jurassic Park. Arnold had patiently pulled systems back online, one after the other. All the park systems are back and functioning correctly. The phones are working. I've called for a doctor for you. On the other end of the line, Malcolm coughed. Arnold was talking to him in his room at the lodge, but you're having trouble with the motion sensors. Well, I'm not finding what I'm looking for. Like the Rex? He's not reading at all now. He started north about 20 minutes ago, following along the edge of the lagoon, and then I lost him. I don't know why, unless he's gone to sleep again. You're hungry. Maybe you should make a sandwich. I'd like a sandwich. I don't have any bread or sandwich meat, though. And you can't find Grant and the kids? No. I think it's quite simple, Malcolm said. The motion sensors cover an inadequate area. Inadequate, Arnold bristles. They cover 92% of the land area. I remember, Malcolm said. But if you put the remaining areas up on the board, I think you'll find that the 8% is topologically unified, meaning that those areas are contiguous. In essence, an animal can move freely anywhere in the park and escape detection by following a maintenance road or the jungle river or the beaches or whatever. Even if that were so, Arnold said, the animals are too stupid to know that. It's not clear how stupid the animals are, Malcolm said. You think that's what Grant and the kids are doing, Arnold said. Definitely not, Malcolm said, coughing again. Grant's no fool. He clearly wants to be detected by you. He and the kids are probably waving at every motion sensor in sight. But maybe they have other problems we don't know about. Or maybe they're on the river. I can't imagine they'd be on the river. The banks are very narrow. It's impossible to walk along there. Would the river bring them all the way back here? Yes, but it's not the safest way to go, because it passes through the aviary. Why wasn't the aviary on the tour? Malcolm said. We've had problems setting it up. Originally, the park was intended to have a treetop lodge built high above the ground, where visitors could observe the pterodactyls at flight level. We've got 4 dactyls in the aviary now, actually. They're pterodactyls, which are big fish-eating dactyls. What about them? Well, while we finished the lodge, we put the dactyls in the aviary to acclimate them. But that was a big mistake. It turns out our fish hunters are territorial. Territorial. Fiercely territorial, Arnold said. They fight amongst themselves for territory, and they'll attack any other animal that comes into the area they've marked out. Attack? It's impressive, Arnold said. The dactyls glide to the top of the aviary, fold up their wings, and dive. A 30-pound animal will strike a man on the ground like a ton of bricks. They were knocking the workmen unconscious, cutting them up pretty badly. That doesn't injure the dactyls. Not so far. So, if those kids are in the aviary, they're not, Arnold said. At least, I hope they're not. Dun, dun, dun. How unfortunate. The level of incompetence is wild. Yeah, you would think so. You would think that they'd be smarter about this. But apparently not. Money. Big money to be made demands cut corners. Apparently. Yes, Junior, we know you're uninterested in reading. Is that the lodge? Lex said. What a dump. Beneath the aviary dome, Terratop's lodge was built high above the ground on big wooden pylons in the middle of a stand of fir trees. But the building was unfinished and unpainted. The windows were boarded up. The trees of the lodge were splattered with broad white streaks. I guess they didn't finish it for some reason, Grant said, hiding his disappointment. He glanced at his watch. Come on, let's go back to the boat. The sun came out as they walked along, making the morning more cheerful. Grant looked at the latticework shadows on the ground from the dome above. He noticed that the ground and the foliage were splattered with broad streaks of the same white chalky substance that had been on the building. And there was a distinctive sour odor in the morning air. Stinks here, Lex said. What's all that white stuff? Looks like reptile droppings. Probably from the birds. How come they didn't finish the lodge? I don't know. They entered a clearing of low grass, dotted with wild flowers. They heard a long, low whistle, then an answering whistle from across the forest. What's that? I don't know. Then Grant saw the dark shadow of a cloud on the grassy field ahead. The shadow was moving fast. In moments, it had swept over them. He looked up and saw an enormous dark shape gliding above them, blotting out the sun. Yow, Lex said. Is it a pterodactyl? Yes, Tib said. Grant didn't answer. He was entranced by the sight of the huge flying creature. In the sky above, the pterodactyl gave a low whistle and wheeled gracefully, turning back toward them. How come they're not on the tour? Tim said. Grant was wondering the same thing. The flying dinosaurs were so beautiful, so graceful as they moved through the air. As Grant watched, he saw a second pterodactyl appear in the sky, and a third, and a fourth. A Quetzalcoatlus? No. They, what did they say it was? They said that it was a, pterodactyls. Pterodactyls. No, I know what a Quetzalcoatlus is. But yeah, no, they said it was the pterodactyls. They're fish-eating pterodactyls. Maybe because they didn't finish the lodge, Lex said. Grant was thinking these weren't ordinary pterodactyls. They were too large. They must be pterodactyls, big flying reptiles from the early Cretaceous. When they were high, these looked like small airplanes. When they came lower, he could see the animals had 15-foot wingspans, furry bodies, and heads like crocodiles. They ate fish, he remembered. South America and Mexico. Yeah, she's in here. She's in here. Someone let her into the room. Lex shaded her eyes and looked up at the sky. Can they hurt us? I don't think so. They eat fish. One of the dactyls spiraled down, a flashing dark shadow that whooshed past them with a rush of warm air and a lingering sour odor. Wow, Lex said. They're really big. And then she said, Are you sure they can't hurt us? Pretty sure. A second dactyl swooped down, moving faster than the first. It came from behind, streaked over their heads. Grant had a glimpse of its toothy beak and the furry body. It looked like a huge bat, he thought. But Grant was impressed with the frail appearance of the animals. Their huge wingspans, the delicate pink membranes stretched across them, so thin they were translucent. Everything reinforced the delicacy of the dactyls. Ow! Lex shouted, grabbing her hair. He bit me. He what? Grant said. He bit me. He bit me. When she took her hand away, he saw blood on her fingers. Up on the sky, 2 more dactyls folded their wings, collapsing into small dark shapes that plummeted toward the ground. They made a kind of scream as they hurtled downward. Come on, Grant said, grabbing their hands. They ran across the meadow, hearing the approaching scream, and he flung himself on the ground at the last moment, pulling the kids down with him. As the 2 dactyls whistled and squeaked past them, flapping their wings, Grant felt claws tear the shirt along his back. Then he was up, pulling Lex back onto her feet and running with him a few feet forward, well overhead. 2 more birds wheeled down and dove toward them, screaming. At the last moment, he pushed the kids to the ground, and the big shadows flapped past. Ugh, Lex said, disgusting. He saw that she was streaked with white droppings from the birds. Grant scrambled to his feet. Come on. He was about to run when Lex shrieked in terror. He turned back and saw that one of the dactyls had grabbed her by the shoulders with its hind claws. The animal's huge leathery wings, translucent in the sunlight, flapped broadly on both sides of her. The dactyl was trying to take off, but Lex was too heavy, and while it struggled, it repeatedly jabbed at her head with its long, pointed jaw. Lex was screaming, waving her hands, her arms wildly. Grant did the only thing he could think to do. He ran forward and jumped up, throwing himself against the body of the dactyl. He knocked it onto its back on the ground and fell on top of the furry body. The animal screamed and snapped. Grant ducked his head away from the jaws and pushed back as the giant wings beat around his body. It was like being in a tent in a windstorm. He couldn't see. He couldn't hear. There was nothing but flapping and shrieking and the leathery membranes. The clawed legs scratched frantically at his chest. Lex was screaming. Grant pushed away from the dactyl, and it squeaked and gibbered as it flapped its wings and struggled to turn over, to right itself. Finally, it pulled in its wings, and like a bat, rolled over, lifted itself up on its little wing claws, and began to walk that way. He paused, astonished. It could walk on its wings. Letterer's speculation was right. But then the other dactyls were diving down at them, and Grant was dizzy, off balance, and in horror when he saw Lex run away, her arms over her head, Tim shouting at the top of his lungs. The first of them swooped down, and she threw something, and suddenly the dactyl whistled and climbed. The other dactyls immediately climbed and chased the first into the sky. The fourth dactyl flapped awkwardly into the air to join the others. Grant looked upward, squinting to see what happened. The three dactyls chased the first, screaming angrily. They were alone in the field. They got my glove, Lex said. My Daryl Strawberry Special. They started walking again. Tim put his arm around her shoulders. Are you all right? They started... Of course, stupid. She said, shaking him off. She looked upward. I hope they choke and die, she said. Yeah, Tim said. Me too. Up ahead, they saw the boat on the shore. Grant looked at his watch. It was 8:30. He now had 2.5 hours to get back. Plastic dinos were partly made of dinos. That's the best way to contribute to the stream. Lex cheered as they drifted beyond the silvery aviary dome. Then, the banks of the river closed in on both sides, the trees meeting overhead once more. The river was narrower than ever, in some places only 10 feet wide, and the current flowed very fast. Lex reached up to touch the branches as they went past. Grant sat back in the raft and listened to the gurgle of the water through the warm rubber. They were moving faster now, the branches overhead slipping by more rapidly. It was pleasant. It gave a little breeze in the hot confines of the overhanging branches, and it meant they would get back that much sooner. Grant couldn't guess how far they had come, but it must be several miles at least from the sauropod building where they had spent the night. Perhaps 4 or 5 miles, maybe even more. That meant they might only be an hour's walk from the hotel, once they left the raft. But after the aviary, Grant was in no hurry to leave the river again. For the moment, they were making good time. It's a myth that oil came from dinos, same with plastic, but it actually made from things like plankton, apparently. Yeah, I remember when I was young, hearing people say that oil came came from dinos. Isn't that why they called them fossil fuels? She got the magic book. I do got the magic book. Hi, Lofi. How are you? I wonder how Ralph is, Lex said. He's probably dead or something. Well, I'm sure he's fine. I wonder if he'd let me ride him, she sighed, sleepy in the sun. That would be fun, to ride Ralph. Tim said to Grant, remember back at the Stegosaurus last night? Yes? How come you asked them about frog DNA? Because of the breeding, Grant said. They can't explain why the dinosaurs are breeding, since they irradiate them, and since they're all females. Right.
Wow! Congratulations!
Thank you for the gifted sub. Well, irradiation is notoriously unreliable and probably doesn't work. I think that'll eventually be shown here. But there's still the problem of the dinosaurs being female. How can they breed when they're all female? Right, so, well, across the animal kingdom, sexual reproduction exists in extraordinary variety. Tim is very interested in sex, Lex said. They both ignored her. For example, Grant said, many animals have sexual reproduction without ever having what we would call sex. The male releases a spermatophore, which contains the sperm, and the female picks it up at a later time. This kind of exchange does not require quite as much physical differentiation between male and female as we usually think exists. Male and female are more alike in some animals than they are in human beings. Tim nodded. But what about the frogs? Grant heard the sudden shrieks from the trees above as the microceratopsians scattered in alarm, shaking the branches. The big head of the tyrannosaur lunged through the foliage.
All right, that's it. Dishonor. Dishonor on your whole family. Make a note of this. Dishonor on you. Dishonor on your cow.
The big head of the tyrannosaur lunged through the foliage from the left, the jaws snapping at the raft. Thank you for the head pats. Bubbles, only 25 cents. You get one per stream. Only 25 cents. Lex howled in terror, and Grant paddled away toward the opposite bank. But the river here was only 10 feet wide. The tyrannosaur was caught in the heavy growth. It butted and twisted its head and roared. Then it pulled its head back. Through the trees that lined the riverbank, they saw the huge dark form of the tyrannosaur moving north, looking for a gap in the trees that lined the bank. The microceratopsians had all gone to the opposite bank, where they shrieked and scampered and jumped up and down. In the raft, Grant, Tim, and Lex stared helplessly as the tyrannosaur tried to break through again. But the trees were too dense along the banks of the river. The tyrannosaur again moved downstream, ahead of the boat, and tried again, shaking the branches furiously. But again, it failed. Then it moved on, heading farther down and sat back in the boat, badly shaken. If the Tyrannosaur had broken through, there was nothing he could have done to save them. The river was so narrow that it was hardly wider than the raft. My glasses. I can't see without my glasses. How am I supposed to read now? Braille. I can't read Braille. I might be blind, but I'm not that blind. Neither can I. Oh no. Well, what are we going to do? I guess we have to wait until I find my glasses again. Where did they go? How's my day? My day is going pretty well. It's alright. I just had kind of a tummy ache, so I decided to skip dinner tonight. I felt too nauseous to eat. What about you? How was the rest of your day after chilling in Discord? Alright, Laurel, thank you for dropping in again. I'll see you around. Bye. I hope you eat something soon. I don't know, maybe not tonight. Probably will wait for tomorrow. I don't even remember. Did I eat anything today? Oh yeah, no I did. I remember I had the snack wraps. It was good. I did another take for a cover, and now I'm debating on which vocals sound better. That's always tough, trying to figure out the vocals. Where are my glasses? Aren't my glasses supposed to be back by now? Is something broken? Did I mess something up? About to just do a whole nother take. I feel that. Oh my god, I feel that so bad. That was me when I was trying to do the other one I'm supposed to do, but I'm waiting for my, I'm gonna work on that some more tomorrow. Yeah, where are my glasses? They're supposed to, there, I'll just put them back on myself. Look, I found them. I found my glasses. Jesus. I'm gonna have to figure out what went wrong there. Hooray! It was like a tunnel. It was like being in a tunnel. The rubber gunwales often scraped on the mud as the boat was pulled along by the swift current. He glanced at his watch. Almost time. The raft continued downstream. Hey, listen, Lex said. He heard snarling, interspersed by a repeating hooting cry. The cry cries were coming from beyond a curve farther down the river. He listened and heard the hooting again. What is it? Lex said. I don't know, Grant said, but there's more than one of them. He paddled the boat to the opposite bank, grabbed a branch to stop the raft. The snarling was repeated, then more hooting. It sounds like a bunch of owls, Tim said. Malcolm groaned. Isn't it time for more morphine yet? Not yet, Ellie said. Malcolm sighed. How much water have we got here? I don't know. There's plenty of running water from the tap. No, I mean, how much stored? Any? Ellie shrugged. None. Go into the rooms on this floor, Malcolm said, and fill the bathtubs with water. Ellie frowned. Also, Malcolm said, have we got any walkie-talkies, flashlights, matches, sterno stoves, things like that? I'll look around. Are you planning for an earthquake? Something like that, Malcolm said. Malcolm effect implies catastrophic changes. But Arnold says all the systems are working perfectly. That's when it happens, Malcolm said. Ellie said, you don't think much of Arnold, do you? He's all right. He's an engineer. Lou's the same. They're both technicians. They don't have intelligence. They have what they call fintelligence. They see the immediate situation. They think narrowly, and they call it being focused. They don't see the surround. They don't see the consequences. Wow, bro's brutal. That's how you get an island like this, from fintelligent thinking. Because you cannot make an animal and not expect it to act alive, to be unpredictable, to escape. But they don't see that. Don't you think it's just human nature, Ellie said. God, no, Malcolm said. That's like saying scrambled eggs and bacon for breakfast is human nature. It's nothing of the sort. It's uniquely Western training. And much of the rest of the world is nauseated by the thought of it. He winced in pain. The morphine was making me feel sun. You want some water? I want some water. Now, I'll tell you the problem with engineers and scientists. Scientists have an elaborate line of bullshit about how they are seeking to know the truth about nature, which is true, but that's not what drives them. Nobody is driven by abstractions like seeking the truth. Scientists are actually preoccupied with accomplishment, so they're focused on whether they can do something. They never stop to ask if they should do something. They conveniently define such considerations as pointless. If they don't do it, someone else will. Discovery, they believe, is inevitable, so they just try to do it first. That's the game in science. Even pure scientific discovery is an aggressive, penetrative act. It takes big equipment, and it literally changes the world afterward. Particle accelerators scar the land and leave radioactive byproducts. Astronauts leave trash on the moon. There is always some proof that scientists were there, making their discoveries. Discovery is always a rape of the natural world. Always. The scientists want it that way. They have to stick their instruments in. They have to leave their mark. They can't just watch. They can't just appreciate. They just can't fit into the natural order. They have to make something unnatural happen. That is the scientist's job. And now we have whole societies that try to be scientific. He sighed and sank back. Ellie said, "Don't you think you're overstating? What does one of your excavations look like a year later?" "Pretty bad," she admitted. "You don't replant? You don't restore the land after you dig?" "No." "Why not?" She shrugged. "There's no money, I guess." "There's only enough money to dig, but not to repair." "Well, we're just working in the Badlands." "Just the Badlands," Malcolm said, shaking his head. "Just trash, just byproducts, just side effects. I'm trying to tell you that scientists want it this way. They want byproducts and trash and scars and side effects. It's a way of reassuring themselves. It's built into the fabric of science, and it's increasingly a disaster." "Then what's the answer?" "Get rid of the intelligence bombs. Take them out of power. But then we'd lose all the advances." "What advances?" Malcolm said irritably. "The number of hours women devote to housework has not changed since 1930, despite all the advances. All the vacuum cleaners, washer-dryers, trash compactors, garbage disposals, wash and wear fabrics. Why does it still take as long to clean the house as it did in 1930? Ellie said nothing. "Because there haven't been any advances," Malcolm said. "Not really. 30,000 years ago, when men were doing cave paintings at Lascaux, they worked 20 hours a week to provide themselves with food and shelter and clothing. The rest of the time, they could play or sleep or do whatever they wanted, and they lived in a natural world with clean air, clean water, beautiful trees and sunsets. Think about it. 20 hours a week, 30,000 years ago." Ellie said, "You want to turn back the clock?" "No," Malcolm said. "I want people to wake up. We've had 400 years of modern science, and we ought to know by now what it's good for and what it's not good for. It's time for a change. Before we destroy the planet," she said. He sighed and closed his eyes. "Oh dear," he said. "That's the last thing I would worry about." In the dark tunnel of the jungle river, Grant went hand over hand, holding branches, moving the raft cautiously forward. He still heard the sounds. And finally, he saw the dinosaurs. "Aren't those the ones that are poisoned?" "Yes," Grant said. "Dilophosaurus." Standing on the riverbank were 2 Dilophosaurus. The 10-foot-tall bodies were spotted yellow and black. Underneath, the bellies were bright green, like lizards. Twin red curving crests ran along the top of the head, from the eyes to the nose, making a V shape above the head. The bird-like quality was reinforced by the way they moved, bending to drink from the river, then rising to snarl and hoot. Lex whispered, "Should we get out of there?" Grant shook his head, no. The Dilophosaurs were smaller than the Tyrannosaur, small enough to slip through the dense foliage at the banks of the river. And they seemed quick as they snarled and hooted at each other. "But we can't get past them in the boat," Lex said. "They're poison." "We have to," Grant said. Dilophosaurs continued to drink and hoot. They seemed to be interacting with each other in a strangely ritualistic, repetitive way. The animal on the left would bend to drink, opening its mouth to bear long rows of sharp teeth, and then it would hoot. The animal on the right would hoot in reply, and bend to drink, in a mirror image of the first animal's movements. Then the sequence would be repeated, exactly the same way. Grant noticed that the animal on the right was smaller, with the smaller spots on its back, and its crest was a duller red. "I'll be damned," he said. "It's a mating ritual." "Can we get past them?" Tim asked. "Not the way they are now. They're right by the edge of the water." Grant knew the animals often performed such mating rituals for hours at a time. They went without food, but paid attention to nothing else. He glanced at his watch. 9:22. "What do we do?" Tim said. Grant said, "I have no idea." He sat down in the raft, and then the Dilophosaurs began to honk and roar repeatedly in agitation. He looked up. The animals were both facing away from the river. "What is it?" Lex said. Grant smiled. "I think we're finally getting some help." He pushed off from the bank. "I want you two kids to lie flat on the rubber. We'll go past as fast as we can. Just remember, whatever happens, don't say anything. And don't move, okay?" The raft began to drift downstream, toward the hooting Dilophosaurs. It gained speed. Lex lay at Grant's feet, staring at him with frightened eyes. They were coming closer to the Dilophosaurs, which were still turned away from the river. But he pulled out his air pistol and checked the chamber. The raft continued on, and they smelled a peculiar odor, sweet and nauseating at the same time. It smelled like dried vomit. The hooting of the Dilophosaurs was louder. The raft came around the final bend, and Grant caught his breath. The Dilophosaurs were just a few feet away, honking at the trees beyond the river. As Grant had suspected, they were honking at the Tyrannosaur. The Tyrannosaur was trying to break through the foliage, and the Dilos hooted and stomped to their feet in the mud. The raft drifted past them. The smell was nauseating. The Tyrannosaur roared, probably because it saw the raft. But in another moment, a thump. The raft stopped moving. They were aground against the riverbank, just a few feet downstream from the Dilophosaurs. Lex whispered, "Not great." There was a long, slow scraping sound of the raft against the mud. Then the raft was moving again. They were going down the river. The Tyrannosaur roared a final time and moved off. One Dilophosaur looked surprised, then hooted. The other Dilophosaur hooted in reply. The raft floated downriver. Let's see, how long is the next chapter? A few pages. The jeep bounced along in the glaring sun. Muldoon was driving with Gennaro at his side. They were in an open field, moving away from the dense line of foliage and palm trees that marked the course of the river. 100 yards to the east. They came to a rise, and Muldoon stopped the car. "Christ, it's hot," he said, wiping his forehead with the back of his arm. He drank from a bottle of whiskey between his knees, and then offered it to Gennaro. Gennaro shook his head. He stared at the landscape shimmering in the morning heat. Then he looked down at the onboard computer and video monitor mounted on the dashboard. The monitor showed views of the park from remote cameras. Still no sign of Grant and the children, or of the Tyrannosaur. The radio crackled. Muldoon. Muldoon picked up the handset. "Yeah?" "You got your onboards. I found the Rex. He's on grid 442, going to 443. "Just a minute," Muldoon said, adjusting the monitor. "Yeah, I got him now, following the river." The animal was slinking along the foliage that lined the banks of the river, going north. "Take it easy with him. Don't just immobilize him." "Don't worry," Muldoon said, squinting in the sun. "I won't hurt him." "Remember," Arlen said, "the Tyrannosaur is our main tourist attraction." Muldoon turned off his radio with a crackle of static. "Bloody fool," he said. "They're still talking about tourists." Muldoon started the engine. "Let's go see Rexy and give him a dose." The jeep jolted over the terrain. "We're looking forward to this," Gennaro said. "I've wanted to put a needle in his big bastard for a while," Muldoon said. "And there he is." They came to a wrenching stop. Through the windshield, Gennaro saw the Tyrannosaur directly ahead of them, moving along the palm trees along the river. Muldoon drained the whiskey bottle and threw it in the back seat. He reached back for his tubing. Gennaro looked at the video monitor, which showed their jeep and the Tyrannosaur. There must be a closed-circuit camera in the trees somewhere behind. "You want to help," Muldoon said. "You can break out those canisters by your feet." Gennaro bent over and opened a stainless steel Halliburton case. It was padded inside with foam. 4 cylinders, each the size of a quart milk bottle, were nestled in the foam. They were all labeled Moro 709. He took one out. "You snap off the tip and screw on a needle," Muldoon explained. Gennaro found a plastic package of large needles, each the diameter of a fingertip. He screwed one onto the canister. The opposite end of the canister had circular lead weight. "That's the plunger. It presses on impact." Muldoon sat forward with the air rifle across his knees. It was made of heavy gray tubular metal and looked to Gennaro like a bazooka or a rocket launcher. "What's Moro 709? Standard animal drink," Muldoon said. "Zoos around the world use it. We'll try 1,000 cc's to start." Muldoon cracked open the chamber, which was large enough to insert his fist. He slipped the canister into the chamber and closed it. "That should do it," Muldoon said. "Standard outfit gets about 200 cc's, but they're only 2 or 3 tons each. Tyrannosaur Rex is 8 tons. Honey Pie, hello! Thank you so much for the raid. Thank you. Welcome in, raiders. Hello. Jurassic Park, the novel by Michael Crichton. A very good read. We have about a third of the book left, maybe less. So, welcome in, Raiders. Hello. My name is Sandra, or Sandra, if you will. I am a Bakunawa VTuber, which is a creature from Filipino folklore, specifically the Central Philippines region. I yearn to the moon. I am new to the space of ASMR, but I think I like it here. So I do ASMR reading, and I play. I'm a variety gamer as well. Welcome in, and I hope you enjoy. Tyrannosaurus Rex is 8 tons and a lot meaner. That matters to the dose. Don't let the dinos eat you. Okay? Bye-bye. Have a good stream. Have a good rest of your day, evening, time zone. Thank you again. I am Enrar. Thank you so much for dropping in with the raid. Hello, welcome. Why? Animal dose is partly body weight and partly temperament. You shoot the same dose of 709 into an elephant, a hippo, and a rhino. You'll immobilize the elephant so it just stands there like a statue. You'll slow down a hippo so it gets kind of sleepy, but it keeps moving. And the rhino will just get fighting mad. But on the other hand, you chase a rhino for more than 5 minutes in a car, and he'll drop dead from adrenaline shock. Strange combinations of tough and delicate. You're welcome. Muldoon drove slowly toward the river, moving closer to the Tyrannosaur. But those are all mammals. We know a lot about handling mammals because zoos are built around the big mammalian attractions: lions, tigers, bears, elephants. We know a lot less about reptiles. And nobody knows anything about dinosaurs. The dinosaurs are new animals. You consider them reptiles, Gennaro said. No, Muldoon said, shifting gears. Dinosaurs don't fit existing categories. He swerved to avoid a rock. Actually, what we find is the dinosaurs were as variable as mammals are today. Some dinos are tame and cute, and some are mean and nasty. Some of them see well, and some of them don't. Some of them are stupid, and some of them are very, very intelligent. Like the raptors, Gennaro said. Muldoon nodded. Raptors are smart. Very smart. Believe me, all the problems we have so far, he said, are nothing compared with what we'd have if the raptors ever got out of their holding pen. Ah, I think this is as close as we can get to our Rexy. Up ahead, the Tyrannosaur was poking its head through the branches, peering toward the river, trying to get through. Then the animal moved a few yards downstream to try again. Wonder what he sees in there, Gennaro said. Hard to know, Muldoon said. Maybe he's trying to get to the microceratopsians that scramble around in the branches. They'll run him a merry chase. Muldoon stopped the jeep about 50 yards away from the Tyrannosaur and turned the vehicle around. He left the motor running. Get behind the wheel, Muldoon said, and put your seatbelt on. He took another canister and hooked it onto his shirt. Then he got out. Gennaro slid behind the wheel. You've done this very often before. Muldoon belched. Never. I'll try to get him just behind the auditory meatus. We'll see how it goes from there. He walked 10 yards behind the jeep and crouched down in the grass on one knee. He steadied the big gun against his shoulder and flipped up the thick telescopic sight. Muldoon aimed at the Tyrannosaur, which still ignored them. There was a burst of pale gas, and Gennaro saw a white streak shoot forward in the air toward the Tyrannosaur. But nothing seemed to happen. Then the Tyrannosaur turned slowly, curiously, to peer at them. It moved its head from side to side, as if looking at them with alternate eyes. Muldoon had taken down the launcher and was loading the second canister. You hit him, Gennaro said. Muldoon shook his head. Missed. Damn laser sights. See if there's a battery in the case. A what? Gennaro said. A battery, Muldoon said. It's about as big as your finger. Gray markings. Gennaro bent over to look in the steel case. He felt the vibration of the jeep, heard the motor ticking over. He didn't see a battery. Their Tyrannosaur roared. To Gennaro, it was a terrifying sound, rumbling from the great chest cavity of an animal, bellowing out over the landscape. He sat up sharply and reached for the steering wheel, put his hand on the gear shift. On the radio, he heard a voice say, Muldoon, this is Arnold. Get out of there. Over. I know what I'm doing, Muldoon said. The Tyrannosaur charged. Muldoon stood his ground. Despite the creature racing toward him, he slowly and methodically raised his launcher, aimed, and fired. Once again, Gennaro saw the puff of smoke, and the white streak of the canister going toward the animal. Nothing happened. The Tyrannosaur continued to charge. Now Muldoon was on his feet and running, shouting, Go! Go! Gennaro put the jeep in gear, and Muldoon threw himself in the side door as the jeep lurched forward. The Tyrannosaur was closing rapidly, and Muldoon swung the door open and climbed inside. Go, damn it! Go! Gennaro floored it. The jeep bounced precariously. The front end nosing so high, they saw only sky through the windshield, then slamming down again toward the ground and racing forward again. Gennaro headed for the stand of trees to the left until, in the rearview mirror, he saw the Tyrannosaur give a final roar and turn away. Gennaro slowed the car. Jesus. Muldoon was shaking his head. I could have sworn I hit him the second time. I'd say you missed, Gennaro said. Needle must have broken off before the plunger injected. Admit it, you missed. Yeah, Muldoon said. He sighed. I missed. Battery was dead in the damn laser sights. My fault. I should have checked it. After it was out all last night. Let's go back and get more canisters. The jeep headed north toward the hotel. Muldoon picked up the radio. Control. Yes, Arnold said.
Banana.
We're heading back to base. Machichi. Hello, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome in. How delightfully reckless of you. The river was now very narrow and flowing swiftly. The raft was going faster all the time. It was starting to feel like an amusement park ride. Whee! Lex yelled, holding on to the gunwale. Faster, faster. Grant squinted, looking forward. The river was still narrow and dark, but farther ahead he could see the trees ended, and there was bright sunlight beyond, and a distant roaring sound. The river seemed to end abruptly in a peculiar flat line. The raft was still going faster, rushing forward. Grant grabbed for his paddles. What is it? It's a waterfall. Waterfall, Grant said. I was about to say waterfall. The raft swept out of the overhanging darkness into brilliant morning sunlight and raced forward on the swift current toward the lip of the waterfall. The roar was loud in their ears. Grant paddled as strongly as he could, but he only succeeded in spinning the boat in circles. It continued inexorably toward the lip. Lex leaned toward him. I can't swim. Grant saw that she did not have her life vest clasped, but there was nothing he could do about it. With frightening speed, they came to the edge, and the roar of the waterfall seemed to fill the world. Grant jammed his oar deep into the water. He felt it catch and hold right at the lip. The rubber raft shuddered in the current, but they did not go over. Grant strained against the oar, and looking over the edge, saw the sheer drop of 50 feet down to the surging pool below. And standing in the surging pool, waiting for them, was the Tyrannosaur. Lex was screaming in panic, and then the boat spun, and the rear end dropped away, spilling them out into the air and roaring water. And they fell sickeningly. Grant flailed his arms in the air, and the world went suddenly silent and slow. Are you late? Just a couple minutes. Not too late. It's only been, maybe 15 minutes. But welcome in. Welcome in.
Banana.
Oh, thank you for the follow.
Banana.
And thank you also for the follow. We're just settling, just settling in. It seemed to him like he fell for long minutes. He had time to observe Lex, clutching her orange jacket, falling alongside him. He had time to observe Tim, looking down at the bottom. He had time to observe the frozen white sheet of the waterfall. He had time to observe the bubbling pool beneath him as he fell slowly, silently toward it. Then, with a stinging slap, Grant plunged into cold water, surrounded by white boiling bubbles. He tumbled and spun and glimpsed the leg of the tyrannosaur as he was swirled past it, swiping down through the pool and out into the stream beyond. Grant swam for the shore, clutched worn rocks, slipped off, caught a branch, and finally pulled himself out of the main current. Gasping, he dragged himself on his belly onto the rocks and looked at the river just in time to see the brown rubber raft tumble past him. Then he saw Tim battling the current, and he reached out and pulled him, coughing and shivering, onto the shore beside him. Grant turned back to the waterfall and saw the tyrannosaur plunge its head straight down into the water of the pool at his feet. The great head shook, splashing water to either side. It had something between its teeth. And the tyrannosaur lifted its head back up. Dangling from its jaws was Lex's orange life vest. A moment later, Lex bobbed to the surface beside the dinosaur's long tail. She lay face down in the water, her little body swept downstream by the current. Grant plunged into the water after her, was again immersed in the churning torrent. A moment later, he pulled her up onto the rocks, a heavy, lifeless weight. Her face was gray. Water poured from her mouth. Grant bent over to give her mouth to mouth, but she coughed. Then she vomited yellow-green liquid and coughed again. Her eyes fluttered. "Hi," she said. She smiled weakly. "We did it." Tim started to cry. She coughed again. "Will you stop it? What are you crying for?" "Because we were worried about you," Grant said. Small flecks of white were drifting down the river. The tyrannosaur was tearing up the life vest, still turned away from them, facing the waterfall. But at any minute, the animal might turn and see them. "Come on, kids," he said. "Where are we going?" Lex said, coughing. "Yogi, thank you for the head pads." "Come on." He was looking for a hiding place. Downstream, he saw only an open, grassy plain, affording no protection. Upstream was the dinosaur. Then, Grant saw a dirt path by the river. It seemed to lead up toward the waterfall. And in the dirt, he saw the clear imprint of a man's shoe leading up the path. The tyrannosaur finally turned around, growling and looking out toward the grassy plain. It seemed to have figured out that they had gotten away. It was looking for them downstream. Grant and the kids ducked among the big ferns that lined the riverbanks. Cautiously, he led them upstream. "Where are we going?" Lex said. "We're going back." "I know." They were closer to the waterfall now, the roar much louder. The rocks became slippery, the path muddy. There was a constant hanging mist. It was like moving through a cloud. The path seemed to lead right into the rushing water. but as they came closer, they saw that it actually went behind the waterfall. The tyrannosaur was still looking downstream, its back turned to them. They hurried along the path to the waterfall, and had almost moved behind the sheet of falling water when Grant saw the tyrannosaur turn. Then, they were completely behind the waterfall, and Grant was unable to see through the silver sheet. Grant looked around in surprise. There was a little recess here, hardly larger than a closet, and filled with machinery. Humming pumps and big filters and pipes. Everything was wet and cold. Did he see us? Lex said. She had to shout over the noise of the waterfall. Where are we? What is this place? Did he see us? Just a minute, Grant said. He was looking up at the equipment. This was clearly park machinery, and there must be electricity to run it. So perhaps there was also a telephone for communication. He poked among the filters and pipes. What are you doing? Lex shouted. Looking for a telephone. It was now nearly 10 a.m. They had just a little more than an hour to contact the ship before it reached the mainland. In the back of the recess, he found a metal door marked Mate 4, but it was firmly locked. Next to it was a slot for a security card. Alongside the door, he saw a row of metal boxes. He opened the boxes, one after another, but they contained only switches and timers, no telephone, and nothing to open the door. He almost missed the box to the left of the door. On opening it, he found a 9-button keypad covered with spots of green mold, but it looked as if it was a way to open the door, and he had the feeling that on the other side of that door was a phone. Scratched in the metal of the box was the number 1023. He punched it in. With a hiss, the door came open. Gaping darkness beyond. Concrete steps leading downward. On the back of the wall he saw, stenciled, Mate Vehicle 422 Charger, and an arrow pointing down the stairs. Could it really mean there was a car? Come on, kids. Forget it, Lex said. I'm not going in there. Come on, Lex, Tim said. Forget it, Lex said. There's no lights or anything. I'm not going. Never mind, Grant said. There wasn't time to argue. Stay here, and I'll be right back. Where are you going? Lex said, suddenly alarmed. Grant stepped through the door. It gave an electronic beep and snapped shut behind him on a spring. Grant was plunged into total darkness. After a moment of surprise, he turned to the door and felt its damp surface. There was no knob, no latch. He turned to the walls on either side of the door, feeling for a switch, the control box, anything at all. There was nothing. He was fighting panic when his fingers closed over a cold metal cylinder. He ran his hands over a swelling edge, a flat surface, a flashlight. He clicked it on, and the beam was surprisingly bright. He looked back at the door, but saw that it would not open. He would have to wait for the kids to unlock it. Meantime, he started for the steps. They were damp and slippery with mold, and he went down carefully. Partway down the stairs, he heard a sniffing and the sound of claws scratching on concrete. He took out his dart pistol and proceeded cautiously. The steps bent around the corner, and as he shone his light, an odd reflection glinted back, and then, a moment later, he saw it. A car. It was an electric car, like a golf cart. and it faced a long tunnel that seemed to stretch away for miles. A bright red light glowed by the steering wheel of the car, so perhaps it was charged. Grant heard the sniffing again, and he wheeled and saw a pale shape rise up toward him, leaping through the air. Its jaws open, and without thinking, Grant fired. The animal landed on him, knocking him down, and he rolled away in a fright, his flashlight swinging wildly. The animal didn't get up, and he felt foolish when he saw it. It was a velociraptor, but very young, less than a year old. It was about 2 feet tall, the size of a medium dog, and it lay on the ground, breathing shallowly, the dart sticking from beneath its jaw. There was probably too much anesthetic for its body weight. Grant pulled the dart out quickly. The velociraptor looked at him with slightly glazed eyes. Grant had a clear feeling of intelligence from this creature, a kind of softness which contrasted strangely with the menace he had felt from the adults in the pen. He stroked the head of the velociraptor, hoping to calm it. He looked down at the body, which was shivering slightly as the tranquilizer took hold, and then he saw it was a male, a young juvenile, and a male. There was no question what he was seeing. This velociraptor had been bred in the wild. Excited by this development, he hurried back up the stairs to the door. With his flashlight, he scanned the flat, featureless surface of the door and the interior walls. As he ran his hands over the door, it slowly dawned on him that he was locked inside and unable to open it unless the kids had the presence of mind to open it for him. He could hear them faintly on the other side of the door. "Dr. Grant?" Lex shouted, pounding the door. "Dr. Grant?" "Take it easy," Tim said. "He'll be back." "But where did he go?" "Listen, Dr. Grant knows what he's doing," Tim said. He'll be back in a minute." "He should come back now," Lex said. She punched her fists on her hips, pushed her elbows wide. She stamped her foot angrily. And then, with a roar, the Tyrannosaur's head burst through the waterfall toward them. Tim stared in horror as the big mouth gaped wide. Lex shrieked and threw herself on the ground. The head swung back and forth and pulled out again. But Tim could see the shadow of the animal's head on the sheet of falling water. He pulled Lex deeper into the recess, just as the jaws burst through again, roaring. The thick tongue, flicking in and out rapidly. Water sprayed in all directions from the head, then it pulled out again. Lex huddled next to Tim, shivering. "I hate him," she said. She huddled back, but the recess was only a few feet deep and crammed with machinery. There wasn't any place for them to hide. The head came through the water again, but slowly this time, and the jaw came to rest on the ground. The Tyrannosaur snorted, flaring its nostrils, breathing the air, but the eyes were still outside the sheet of water. Tim thought, "He can't see us. He knows we're in here, but he can't see us." The Tyrannosaur sniffed. "What is he doing?" Lex said again. "Shh." With a low growl, the jaws slowly opened, and the tongue snaked out. It was thick and blue-black, with a little forked indentation at the tip. It was 4 feet long and easily reached back to the far wall of the recess. The tongue slid with a rasping grape over the filter cylinders. Tim and Lex pressed back against the pipes. The tongue moved slowly to the left, then to the right, slapping wetly against the machinery. The tip curled around the pipes and valves, sensing them. Tim saw that the tongue had muscular movements, like an elephant's trunk. The tongue drew back along the right side of the recess. It dragged along Lex's legs. "Ew," Lex said. The tongue stopped. It curled, then began to rise like a snake up the side of her body, past her face, then up along Tim's shoulder, and finally wrapping around his head. Tim squeezed his eyes shut as the slimy muscle covered his face. It was hot and wet, and it stunk like urine. Wrapped around him, the tongue began to drag him very slowly toward the open jaws. "Timmy!" Tim couldn't answer. His mouth was covered by the flat, black tongue. He could see, but he couldn't talk. Lex tugged at his hand. "Come on, Timmy." The tongue dragged him toward the snorting mouth. He felt the hot, panting breath on his legs. Lex was tugging at him, but she was no match for the muscular power that held him. Tim let go of her and pressed the tongue with both hands, trying to shove it over his head. He couldn't move it. He dug his heels into the muddy ground, but he was dragged forward anyway. Lex had wrapped her arms around his waist and was pulling back, shouting toward him. But he was powerless to do anything. He was beginning to see stars. A kind of peacefulness overcame him, a sense of peaceful inevitability as he was dragged along. "Timmy?" And then suddenly the tongue relaxed and uncoiled. Tim felt it slipping off his face. His body was covered in disgusting white foamy slime, and the tongue fell limply to the ground. The jaws slapped shut, biting down on the tongue. Dark blood gushed out, mixing with the mud. The nostrils still snorted in ragged breaths. "What's he doing?" Lex cried. And then slowly, very slowly, the head began to slide backward out of the recess, leaving a long scrape in the mud. And finally, it disappeared entirely, and they could see only the silver sheet of falling water. Delicious water. Yummy, delicious water. How are we liking the book? I've been enjoying it. Can't believe we're almost done. There's only maybe 100 more pages. A little over 100. Yeah, actually. Ooh, crack my fingers. you so much, everyone, for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys have been enjoying the book and enjoying the time that we spent together. Thank you for all the new follows, the resubs, the gifted subs. And thank you again to Fi for the raid. Thank you. For those who are new here, I do have a Discord that I hang out with. I hang out in the VC sometimes. I am pretty active in my community, and I like to play Wordle, so we can play Wordle together if you guys are into that. If you stick around, I'm going to see if I have anyone to raid out to. Alright. So if you will give me a moment of your time. My stream schedule is posted in my Discord every Sunday. I will not be streaming tomorrow, but I will be back on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Hopefully, for more Doki Doki Literature Club, it depends on the ladies, on the other ladies involved. If not, I'll probably be playing Peak. And on Saturday, we will continue more Jurassic Park. So, let me go ahead and find someone to raid out to. Question is, do I want to stay in the ASMR category, or do I want to raid one of my friends? Let's see first who I have online. Let's see, we have Vimshi doing an IRL stream. We have my friend Shiro. It looks like, is he done playing Valorant? Is he moving on to something else? Let me make sure.
Like, what's that? Goal, I think. Zero doing the deep voice, I'm not doing the deep voice. My voice is very high right now. Always. Hey, yo, say that. Oh, random. Does anybody know the game Rematch? Follow-up question also.
You know, we'll go ahead and raid our friend Shiro. It looks like he's still gonna be going for a bit. I think he was going to either be talking about his book that he's writing, or he's going to read as well. So let me send you over to him. He's a good friend of mine. Oh, Davi is playing Date Everything though. I'll just stop by her stream later. Alright. Thank you again to everybody for hanging out with me today. I'm going to go ahead and start the raid. Please, if you are still here with me, please hop on board and we'll go say hi to my friendly friend. My friendly friendo, Shiro. Shirai. hit me up in the Discord. And I will be back on Friday. See you guys next time. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye.